Hello everyone, meeting conversation number 14. Hope everything is good. Good day, good morning, maybe even good evening to some of you. It depends where you are in the world. We are following for now in this series of talks the book Kabbalah for Beginners. So if you don't have it, then you can download it by using the link in the description. Also, in the link in the description, you will find the complete course that we've done so far, the YouTube playlist of that in a link, and also our Kabbalah course in KabU, which is very fundamental and very thorough for everyone who wants to really study it, because these conversations are more about specific ideas or notions or terms, and that's about it. Okay, so if you remember, last time what we've talked about is how the spiritual reality corresponds with the what we call corporal reality or our reality. So far we've talked about these 5 words in spirituality. Let's mention 4 of them. So we have Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, and we have what we'll call our world. Okay, now what are these worlds? As we've said previously, these worlds are level of consciousness, meaning they are the degree of attainment of the Creator, how similar one's attributes are to the Creator. According to that, you move up or down in the worlds, meaning there is no reality of place or space. So we're not talking about worlds that are out there in outer space or deep in the ocean or something like that. And to move in them doesn't mean to go up or go down. There is no up and down. But coming closer in attributions, in similarity of form to the one force that controls all of reality and manages it, which is called the Creator. This is called going up. And on the contrary, being in greater concealment of this force, sensing only oneself and one egoistic desire, and because one is being cut off from the general reality by his own or her own ego, so this means going down or being in our world or revealing this shattered reality. Now, the structure of the worlds, because it's all about level of consciousness, meaning that the objects in each world or the structure in each world doesn't change. So if you have, let's say, something you call a circle here or any other thing, it can be also trees, dogs, people, whatever, places, okay? So you have the same basic structure in each world. You just attain it differently, depends on what level of consciousness you are at, okay? To what extent do you reveal the spiritual reality, okay? And these objects also correlate to one another in a way that we call in Kabbalah root and branch, meaning that, for example, if I have here a circle and I have a circle on a lower level, then this would be called the root, and this would be called the branch. And this is also true that this is the root for, let's say, the branch in our world. Why is this important? This is important in 2 aspects that I want to mention here and now. The one is that if Kabbalists want to describe what they reveal in an upper reality, which is above place, above time, that doesn't have the same things that we experience in our world, in many cases they use the words that we use in our world in order to describe that reality. That's why you have many holy books which are holy because Kabbalists wrote them about the spiritual reality. And if you don't understand what is the code behind it, meaning what does it refer to in spirituality, then you translate the words, or you understand it in a corporal way. So you can think, for example, that the Bible talks about places and people, and it's like an historical story, or maybe it's about moral, or all these kind of things, which is completely not about that, okay? So it's all about the spiritual process that a Kabbalist named Moses go through from the beginning when he's in this corporal reality and until the final attainment of the Creator, of the upper world, okay? This is one thing I want to say. And the other thing is that we need to understand that if we want to change anything in our world, okay, you can't actually change it in this level. You need to rise above to a higher level and change it from there. And this is what Kabbalists usually refer to. Well, they refer to in different examples. Let's take a modern example that probably they would use it if they could. So let's take, for example, the computer screen that you're watching right now. So you have all these colors, you have images, you have different drawings, but what causes this image to be is different electrical pulses in your plasma screen. And what causes that? It's like a deeper layer of code. And if you want to change something in the external manifestations of things, you actually need to go deep into the code and change it there. Okay, so it might seem to us that we can change things in our world, or we try to fix problems or things in our world, but actually we can't. We're just trying to touch the code through these external things. Most of the time it doesn't work. Some of the times it causes more damage than benefit. But if one wants to change, if one wants to acquire a true control over reality, or understanding of the laws, he or she needs to ascend to a higher level from which this reality has been created. Okay, so having said that, now let's go to page 77, where we were last time. And again, if you don't have the book Kabbalah for Beginners, you can actually download it from the link in the description. So I'm at the title, As Above, So Below. If we draw a parallel between the earthly phases and the four basic phases of light, the still area corresponds to the root phase, the vegetative area corresponds to phase 1, the animate area to phase 2, the speaking area to phase 3, and the spiritual area to phase 4. Okay, so just like this structure of the world, as we've said in previous lessons, come from this very basic structure of reality, meaning like a DNA of reality, which we called phase 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that corresponds to the worlds. And also we said that in our world it corresponds to a still vegetative, animate, and speaking. And also last lesson we've talked about that if we take time in our world, because time is a concept that only exists in our world, so we can talk about how the universe developed through billions of years of still, then vegetative, tens or hundreds of millions, and animate, and speaking, which is like a millisecond compared to whatever came before. And this, what we just read, actually says that it corresponds again to the same phases. Just now it's on a different order. Okay, so sometimes we refer to one as the closer to the creator, and sometimes we refer to one as the least developed. Okay, so it really depends. So here we're talking about closer to the Creator is 1, and then 4 is the farthest away, and here it's the opposite. Okay, so again, these numbers just want to express some kind of qualitative phase, so I wouldn't I wouldn't cleave to them like too hard. Okay, it's just want to express something. Planet Earth's scorching youth lasted several billion years. As it cooled, vegetative life appeared and reigned over the planet for many more millions of years. But just as the mass of vegetation is much less than that of the steel, the vegetative period was much shorter than Earth's inanimate period. Following the completion of the vegetative phase, the animated period arrived. As with the previous 2 degrees, the animated area was much shorter than the vegetative area, matching the proportion between the vegetative and animate masses. So again, you see a proportion between mass and time, and you can also talk about relation of time and space. We won't get into that. That's like too heavy for this series of talks. The human phase, which corresponds to the speaking level of the pyramid, has only been around for the past 40,000 years or so, when humanity completes its evolution of the 4th and last phase. Evolution will be complete and humanity will reunite with the Creator. Okay, so the last phase, actually, the complete realization of the speaking level is in attaining adhesion with the Creator, and you do that through connection with the others. So the speaking is the beginning of the structure of this one big organism that you can call humanity. So just like the organism of my body actually has egoistical cells that come together in order to create this one structure that operates as one and reveals in it the sensation of life or consciousness on my level, then the more you develop, the more you reveal that actually this consciousness is like one cell of consciousness of a whole organism that is called humanity. And the general consciousness or the general power of life that reveals itself in this one structure that we call the soul or Adam Rishon, this is called the Creator. And the 4th phase began some 5,000 years ago when the desire for spirituality first appeared. In Kabbalah, the appearance of the desire for spirituality is called the appearance of the point in the heart. If you examine the pyramid in figure 8, you will find that we actually have a very broad-based pyramid here. Each level contains much more substance and lasts much longer than the one above it. Nevertheless, each degree is totally subjected and controlled by its adjacent superior. This is why the correction of the entire world depends on the correction of the last and highest degree, the spiritual. Meaning, as we've said also, that the correction needs to happen on the higher level, meaning the only thing that is actually corrupted is the real connection between people. And if you connect that, then through this correct connection between people, you reveal the Creator. And by that, you're healing and you're bringing into balance the whole system. So there is no point, just like there is no point in trying to change things in the corporal world and hoping that anything will change if you don't rise to the root. The same thing is true for still vegetative animals. So no point in trying to prevent the warming of the earth or saving extincting species or whatever you want to pronounce it, like extinct. I hope I could. Well, I hope I pronounced it correctly. So no matter of saving all these species and all this, or trying to help a certain type of animals, or thinking what if we haven't hunted the whales and there would be more whales, how they would take with them much more carbon and have a more balanced system in sea, etc., etc. No point in dealing with that. All of our crises from the environmental to the financial or other social crises, economic crisis, whatever, they all come from this very specific point that lacks correction, this very corrupted, the only corrupted or broken thing in reality, which is the connection between us. That now is egoistic, just like a cell in my body starts to be a cancer cell by trying to use all of the system for one's own sake, and compared to the balanced state in which life can appear and exist, in which each cell contributes or finds its place as part of the general organism. Let's finish this and then see if we have questions. As in the spiritual world, the name of the person who first experienced the point in the heart was Adam. He was Adam Arishon, the first man. The name Adam comes from the Hebrew words Adam El Elyon. This is also something we talked about, which means I will be like the Most High, okay? And reflects Adam's desire to be like the Creator, okay? That's it. Now let's finish this. Okay, the point in the heart. We've talked about this concept, but let's read it as well. When Kabbalists write about the point about the heart, they are not referring to the pump in our chest. The heart is the sum of our desires to receive pleasure, and the desire for spirituality is the point in the heart. This point is very important because once it appears, it sheds a new light on everything we experience and gives our lives a higher spiritual meaning. This point in the heart is what eventually leads us to spirituality. Okay, we've talked about a lot. These days, at the start of the 21st century, well, some years passed since the book came out, evolution is completing its development of the fourth phase, the desire to be like the Creator. This is why today more and more people are looking for spiritual answers to their questions. Okay, nice. Now, let's see if we have questions, and then if we have time, we'll go to the next section. This is the wrong place. This is the right place. Jackie saying good morning from Nashville. Hey Jackie, and hello to Siki as well. Good morning to you. Hope you have a wonderful morning. Raziela is saying Shabbat Tov. Anka. Yotha. Well, no questions actually. Just a lot of people saying hello. Well, hello to you too. Okay, so if there are no questions, let's continue. Up the ladder. When Kabbalists talk about spirituality evolving, they are referring to climbing up the spiritual ladder. This is why Kabbalist Yehuda Ashlag named his commentary on the Book of Zohar Perush Asulam, the ladder commentary, for which he was named Baal Asulam, owner of the ladder. But climbing up the ladder actually means going back to the roots. This is because the roots of our creation, the upper worlds, are part of us. In a sense, we've already been there, even though we're unaware of it. Now we must figure out how to get back there by ourselves consciously. The root is our final goal, where we are ultimately heading. But to get there quickly and peacefully, we need a great desire for it, a kli, a vessel. The desire for spirituality is what characterizes the spiritual level in our evolution. Just as not all gifted athletes win medals, only those who are both gifted and highly motivated to achieve spirituality, we need to be very highly motivated. To understand where highly motivated athletes get their motivation, we must look not only at the athletes, but at their environment. In many countries, there are special schools for athletes where they live, where their lives revolve entirely around their sport and their competitiveness is nurtured. Similarly, to achieve spirituality, we must create an environment that will encourage us to be more spiritual. Such an environment will make us think that spirituality is the most important thing in life, and that by achieving it, we will be the happiest and most complete people on earth. Our friends will describe how great it is to be spiritual, united with the Creator, just as athletes' friends talk to them about winning this or that race, and what it feels like to be the first at the finish line, etc. In Kabbalah, we would say that the medal shines for athletes with surrounding light. Therefore, to want spirituality, we need to acquire the kind of surrounding light that will make us want spiritual pleasures. The more of this light we gather, the faster we will progress. Wanting spirituality is called raising man, and we can use the same technique that athletes use to increase the desire for a medal. Picture it, talk about it, read about it, think about it, and do whatever we can to focus on it. But the most powerful means to increase any desire is still our social environment. Okay, this goes on, not for too long. Okay, maybe I'll do a pause here. I'll explain 3 things and then we'll finish. Okay, so actually 3 main concepts. Well, speaking is not my strongest part. Okay, so 3 main concepts or ideas are brought here. One is about surrounding light, the other is about going back to the root, and the 3 is the social environment. So let's start with going to the root. What does it mean? Although we talked about it, then we'll talk about the light, and then we'll talk about social environment. Okay, so the root. So as we've said that in this course, for example, we're talking just about how reality came to be, from the root to our world, okay? And then it developed in our world until the point in the heart revealed itself, and then a process of ascending began. And this is actually what they refer to here, that although in Kabbalah we describe this, how reality came to be, and also in this book now, usually Kabbalists don't do that, but in this book they elaborate a lot about our world and how it developed until a person senses a point in the heart that pulls him to attain the Creator. And then the level of attainments, meaning going up in the worlds, in the level of consciousness or revelation of the Creator, is all about revealing how it was created. So if, for example, I rise to the level of X, I reveal the level of X and how from X everything was created and everything is controlled to our world. But if I want to rise to X plus 1 or X plus 2, then now I reveal not X but a higher root of X, a cause for X, X plus 2, and how everything came to be from X plus 2. And this is how we attain until we reach the world of infinity and Sof, and from there we attain the moment of creation. Okay? So this was about going back to the root, because the worlds are inside of us, and this is what it means. Now, surrounding light. In the future state, we will have a kli, a vessel, in which we will feel the light as endless. It will fulfill us without limitation, okay? Just like we've talked about in previous lessons, okay? But now, for example, if we're on this level, we have a very small vessel, or if we're in our world, we don't have a vessel at all yet, because we don't reveal the Creator at all. So, but let's say that if we have a small vessel, then now we can attain only a small portion of the upper light. And what happens to all this endless light? This is called surrounding light, okay? And to the extent that a person yearns for the future state, he wants to be here, but is now here. To that extent, we say that the person raises man. Man comes from Aramaic. It says mein nugvin. It means like, in literal translation, it's like the female water, okay? But you need to understand deeper that female in Kabbalah is about a lack, okay? Nekeva, it's about a deficiency, and water is about the power of bestow. So it's a lack for the power of the bestow, of being like the Creator. So this is actually called man. And what a person receives, he receives some of it as mad, meaning a response to his prayer, power that allows him to operate and move forward. And let's say that this is 1%, and this is 100%. So all the 99% is actually working as a surrounding light, meaning it pulls him to the future state. Just like a kid that plays in being something, then his future state that already exists, because time is only an illusion of our reality, but the future state of that child already exists, it pulls him towards it, okay? This is about it. Now, social environment, this is maybe the most important thing that was talked about relating to our condition, and how can we use it. And we need to understand that in order to develop spiritually, a person must build around him a social environment, which be like a laboratory, just like the athletes build this environment around them. So it's like a laboratory in which the person develops or evolves. And to be more correct, what actually evolves, not my protein body. It has nothing to do with spiritual attainment. Also my egoistic heart or brain that operates on in an egoistical way has nothing to do with spirituality. But what actually the person develops there is the connection with the others. This would later be his soul. Okay? He would change his perception from identifying oneself with the protein body to identifying oneself with the general soul, with a bigger synergy than him or her. Okay? Okay. Let's finish this. Is there a difference between surrounding light and just light? The different titles, surrounding light and light, relate to two functions of the same light. Light that is not considered surrounding is what we experience as pleasure, while surrounding light is the light that builds our kli, the place where the light will finally enter. Okay, and just like in the drawing about the future state and the current state. Both are actually one light, but when we experience it as correcting and building, we call it surrounding light. When we feel it as pure pleasure, we call it light. Okay, so also external, internal is only in the perception of the receiver. In his introduction to the study of the 10 Sefirot, Baal HaSulam explains that until we develop a kli, we do not receive any light. But the light is there, surrounding our souls, and gradually builds our kli by increasing our desire for it, okay? Because the future state already exists now, okay? Nothing changes, actually. Also, we are now in this world of infinity. We will talk about the environment more in part 4, but for now, let's think of it in the following way. If everyone around me wants and talks about the same thing, and there's only one thing that's in, I'm bound to want it. The more I want something, the greater are my efforts to obtain it. The more my kli grows, and the greater the surrounding light that I will draw. Okay, so this is even in a very psychological, social kind of way. We explain that without understanding the spiritual structure. The growing kli encourages me to develop new means to get what I want, thus progressing faster toward my goal. The equation is simple and straightforward. The bigger the kli, the greater the light, the quicker the correction and the reception of the light inside of the kli. Good, and next time we're going to talk about building the vessel, which is actually more of a practical lesson. Okay, so now we're moving more or less from the part that we talked more theoretically about the system and a general perspective into more practical things about spiritual work. And hopefully, maybe in the future, we'll go back to having a general view after we attain some practical tools. Hello to Star. Jake is saying, is spiritual light the impressions? Light is actually everything. It's life, it's pleasure. Baal HaSulam defines light as everything that is not the will to receive. When can we start seeing good positive changes in our world? So far, even with more turning to spirituality, it's not getting better. On the contrary, in the beginning, when you start to advance in spirituality, you just understand how your opposite, how you're farther away from the Creator, how your attributes are actually more egoistic than you thought, because you thought that you are a nice girl, a nice boy, and that you're doing some good, you're not so egoistic, and now you finally start to reveal the disease in you, how bad it is, and so you can cure it. And because you change, you see everything in the world according to your internal structure, the more you reveal bad in yourself, darkness in yourself, that's how you see the world as darker. But this is just the beginning, okay? So it's just like going to the doctor. First you need to define the disease, and once you go over this phase, you will start seeing how everything improves, because we're in infinity right now. We are in the complete eternal reality already now. We just don't have the internal sense to feel it. Hello to Rita, to Yulia, no questions here. Okay, so that's it for now. See you next time. Whenever we'll meet, we'll see when we broadcast. But you can always check the playlist. So thank you and bye for now.